Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings. I am Brian Nemhauser. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Hawk Blogger. It is a Wednesday, and it's a special Wednesday because not only do we get to do the first look, dive into this matchup between the Seahawks and the Rams, a division matchup that is remarkably just the second divisional game the Seahawks will have played after 8 games. They're week 9 in the season before they get their second divisional game. So we'll talk about that here first. But then Ray Roberts dropped me a line a few days ago, and he's like, hey, you want to talk this week? We usually do Big Ray's Rewind every other week, but he's like, I want to talk. So at 9 a.m. Pacific time, I will welcome in Big Ray Roberts. We will close down this shop as we do every week. These are separate episodes. In case of people are wondering, I do that because not everybody watches the show live. Some people want to watch First Look. Some people want to watch the Rewind. This gives people a chance to find either one and kind of surf around as they choose. So we'll do that at 9 a.m. And then special time today, 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific time, Jeff Simmons, Evan Hill, myself will get back together for Real Hawk Talk tonight. And, hopefully that's the good luck crew. The last time we were together was before the Falcons game. That seemed to go okay. So maybe the three of us will recreate some of that magic with Real Hawk Talk today, this afternoon at 5. So make sure you are here for that. Wonderful to see people in chat already. I want to say good morning to Old School Seahawk. Good morning to Amy Holmes. Good morning to Keith Lavelle. All the folks, Ricardo, Dizzy, all these folks, William Awesome Co., Raptor Rancher, all the folks that are members here every day. K-Jab, Rylan, Jared. Really great to see all of you. I'm working. I'm in the middle, so you're gonna notice a few things in this episode today. I'm a little distracted. And the reason I'm distracted is I have been working for a couple of weeks now, and on this article about home field advantage for the Seahawks, and I got to tell you all, I found things I didn't expect to find. There's a much bigger story here than I realized, and I've got numbers to back it up. And I've been trying to formulate how to take all that I've found. It is like, I don't want to minimize doctoral theses and the years of work that goes into it, but it feels a little like that. I've got so much research and so much evidence to share. Putting that into a readable format and an engaging story is a really fun challenge. And I finally sat down this morning and started to type it out. I know Bob Condata wrote an article in the Seattle Times this morning about home field advantage, and Bob does great work. I'm just here to tell you I've got more to say than I think anyone else is going to have to say on this topic. I've got more to share than I think anyone else is going to have to share. And I've got the attention of folks in the building over there at the VMAC. I have a feeling, I'm not going to oversell it, but I have a feeling there's going to be interest in what I share once I figure out how to get this all written up beyond the borders of Seattle, of Washington, of the Seahawks fan base. So some really, really interesting stuff. I cannot wait to get it. And I was in the middle of a writing zone. I just was down in it. And then I'm like, oh man, I got to do the show. So I'm a little distracted. I'm like, my heart is like in writing right now. I want to go back and finish my writing. So apologies if my heart is not as in it as it normally is. The other thing you're going to notice this morning is I wrote my tale of the tape yesterday, and something happened when I wrote it that I didn't expect, I didn't plan, but it happened. And if you've read it on hawkblogger.com, you probably picked up on it. I'm so angry. I was so angry when I wrote that. And I sat down and I looked at it and I'm like, How many times over the last however many years have I sat down to write a preview of an upcoming game for the Seahawks and talked about they need to be able to stop the run. They need to be able to run the ball. They need to be able to pass protect. It feels like I could easily be replaced by a bot for a number of reasons. But what's the point? What's the point of continuing to believe that there is some specific matchup in this game, or some guy's going to get healthy, or some guy's going to get, whatever, some difference is going to happen, when it's very friggin' simple? If the Seahawks are going to play defense the way they've been playing defense, this game isn't going to go the Seahawks' way. Period. Like, it may not be close. Like, I will tell you, I will walk you through the numbers, because that's what we do on the show. I walk you through the matchups. I will tell you about the players. I'll do all that. But it's a little bit obligatory, because I'm telling you at the top, none of it matters if the Seahawks are going to play run defense the way they've been playing run defense. It just doesn't matter. Like, you are a absolute joke of a team when you can't defend the run. And I just found myself furious about that while I was writing. And you guys know, you're with me every day. I'm optimistic. I'm like, want to find the light and the opportunity and the growth. It's hard. It's a hard period of time for that. I am disappointed in the players. I'm disappointed in Mike McDonald. I'm disappointed in John Schneider. I'm disappointed in the fans. I'm like disappointed all around. And that's a crappy way to be. And I know a lot of you are probably in similar spots. I want to be able to go there on Sunday and cheer for my team and believe that my voice matters, and believe that the team cares, and that the team is going to put in the time to be excellent at their jobs and make the adjustments. It has been weeks. Technically, it's been years, but it's not always the same people involved. Different coaches, different players. But it's been weeks, over a month, of just atrocious run defense. There's more than enough time. There's no excuse of this is 3 games in 11 days, no practice. They have had time. They have gotten their players back. They have added to their players. Ernest Jones, Roy Robertson Harris. There is no other excuse left for this team. Win the goddamn game. Play with passion. Play with physicality. Be the tougher team. And if you're not, you know what? Shame on you. Like, you represent this fan base, you represent this city, you represent yourself every single time you walk on that field. You should be embarrassed by what has been done on that side of the ball for much of this season. So that is going to show up, as it just did, because it's hard for me to like get into the first look today and tell you, yeah, like here's this insight I found, and it's going to make all the difference, because I don't feel that way. The Seahawks, for what it's worth, over the last 6 games, since week 4, is it the last 6 games? Since week 4, since the Lions game, they are giving up a 49.7% success rate on opposing team rushing plays. That's 31st in the NFL. It's amazing that they're not 32nd. Every other running play is getting the yards necessary for that down. And if you don't know what success rate means, On first down, I believe it's carries of 4 yards or more. Second down, it is getting, I think like, I should know the exact, it's like 30 or like 40% of the remaining yards required to get a first down. And then third down, a successful run is picking up a first down. Fourth down, same thing. Picking up a first down is a successful run. So having essentially a 50% success rate for your opposing teams on running plays, honestly, it feels like 60%, 70%. And the reason it feels like that is at times it has been. The Bills were at like over 60% success rate at times during that game. So you just can't. You can't do it if that's the way you're going to play. There's a bunch of stuff in chat I want to get to. Avery Aguirre, who's been a member for 2 months. It's great to have you for multiple months. Everyone that sticks around, I greatly appreciate you. Thank you for sticking around, Avery. He says, love being part of this group. Need the Hawks to start trending in the right direction. I love this team. Go Hawks. I love this team too. Don't get it twisted. I'm going to be here doing 3 hours of shows today, writing articles, going to the VMAC, talking to the team. Every single day I will be covering this team, and I'll be happy to do it. But I'm also going to be honest about this team. You'll find that here. Raptor Rancher says, Brian, I watched Hysteria episode 1 and I loved it. I'm telling you, I loved that series. I like at least the first season. I didn't love the finale. I'm not gonna it's not awful, but the finale was a little bit of a disappointment. But man, did I love that show. As I said yesterday, Stranger Things meets The Exorcism. The Exorcist, sorry, is kind of the deal there. So glad that you watched it. Glad you liked it. And good morning to everybody that is wishing good morning. Raptor Rancher says, but you're our bot, Brian. Well, I'm happy to be your bot. And Nate Schutz says, we got nihilistic Brian. You're right. You did. I'm actually, if you don't know, I'm a bit of a nihilist anyway. It is very freeing to not believe almost anything matters, but that's a story for another day. All right. So one more bit of news before I get into the first look. So here we are 13 minutes in, and someone's probably going to get annoyed if you're watching this not live. But that's okay. I talked to JK Boots yesterday. And they are in the process of delivering the boot that you all helped get donated to the Wildland Firefighters Foundation. It is going to be delivered. We're going to get to meet the firefighter who gets it. They'll send a picture of the person. We'll get hopefully a note, maybe a video. I can't wait. I think it's really, really cool what you all are doing, what's going on here with that. And beyond that, JK Boots has agreed that we're going to continue this. It was meant to be a limited thing, but it's been so successful and it feels like awesome. It's like a win-win-win for everybody. We're going to keep doing it. So, and we got some really cool ideas of how to make it even cooler. But we're going to give away donate another pair of boots to the Wildland Firefighters Foundation when we get to our next 10 boots sold using code HawkBlogger. So we're going to keep putting boots on the ground in the Great Northwest to protect our forest, to protect our people, to protect our homes. So it's a great excuse. Do something to help yourself. Get 10% off when you use code HawkBlogger. And it's not just off of one boot. When you use code HawkBlogger, it's off of your entire purchase. So you can get belts, you can get all sorts of things there if you use code HawkBlogger. You still have a chance. They're building the Seahawks themed boot. So I will select somebody who gets the Seahawks themed boot, who uses code HawkBlogger. That'll come up probably in the next few weeks, and can't wait. They're going to do a whole video about the making of the boot over there on their YouTube channel. And we've got some really cool things in store. So great excuse to go over to jkboots.com, use code HawkBlogger, and get 10% off, get a chance to win a pair of Seahawks themed boots, and help a firefighter in the Northwest be equipped to help protect our great forests. All right. So let's, and Plenipot asked, do I own a pair of these boots? They are in the process of being made. I am going to have these boots soon enough, and I will tell you firsthand my experience. But these are lifetime boots. These are handmade in Spokane, Washington by a family-owned company. These are special boots. So I'm looking forward to it. All right. Let's get into talking about the tail of the tape for these two teams. Now, for the Rams, you're talking about a team that the narrative is going to be very straightforward. It is going to be, you know what? The Rams got healthy. Now everything's hunky-dory. They're going to roll the rest of the year. And I understand that idea. I will tell you, like, they beat a Vikings team that just played the Detroit Lions in a home game, and it was a battle royale. It was a just back and forth physical game, and they lost. And so you got the physical toll, you've got the emotional toll, and then you've got to fly all the way from Minnesota on a short week, not being able to prep really, to LA for a Thursday night game. Away teams on Thursday night, especially if they have to travel, generally do not do well. And then on top of that, the Vikings lost their left tackle in the first half in an absolutely silly decision that I'm sure the coach is really regretting as soon as it happened, where they didn't just kneel at the end of the half and they lost their left tackle for the year. Well, so the second half, they didn't have him. So all of those things happened, and the Vikings still had the ball with a chance to tie at the end, if not for a blatant face mask that wasn't called. So I'm not saying that the Rams didn't play a good game. I'm not saying the Rams didn't get rejuvenated and have new life, or that the Rams are not a dangerous team. Not saying those things. I will caution you from believing that the Rams are back and the Rams are this badass team. I don't think that's the case. The Rams have flaws. The Rams have issues. We'll talk about some of those issues in this show. And the Rams can be beat. They absolutely can be beat. So don't get that part. Don't buy the hype, which is that's going to be the national narrative. That's going to be like a lot of the lazy takes. That's just not the case. You're going to always hear coaches talk about it's not about them, it's about us. This is very much about the Seahawks. And it's been about the Seahawks most of the time. Again, they've got to figure out their shit if they want to be competitive against anybody. I don't care who's coming to town. So that's the first thing I wanted to kind of share about the Rams. The other thing that I wanted to kind of bring up as we bring in DVOA and another one of our fabulous partners, FTN. So FTNfantasy.com has DVOA. It's the only place you can get DVOA, and you can get 15% off if you use promo code HBAM. I'm a subscriber there. That's where I get all this data. It's where I get a bunch of other data. And so highly recommend. Less than $8 a month to do it. For this game, the Seahawks rank 16th in DVOA right now. The Rams rank 21st in DVOA. Okay, so they're bottom third kind of the NFL from a DVOA perspective. Where they do still rank highly is they're 12th in offense, which is actually pretty impressive considering the amount of injuries the Rams have had. And if you don't know the Rams injury situation, They spent a lot of money on Jonah Jackson, on Kevin Dotson, their two guards this year. Jonah Jackson out pretty much all year with an injury, still out. They spent a second round pick on Steve Avila, who was a guard last year. They moved him to center this year. He is out and has been out for a long time. He'll still be out. They lost their best safety, John Johnson. They had no Puka Nacua, no Cooper Kupp for a long stretch, and they just got those two guys back. There's just been a litany of injuries on that side of the ball for the Rams. And yet they've found a way to win their last two games, one against the Raiders, which is not that impressive, but it's a win, and one against the Vikings with the caveats I gave, but still was an impressive win and a season-changing victory for them. Their run offense, sorry to tell you all, their run offense has been stronger than their passing offense. They are 10th in the NFL in run DVOA, and I think they are 12th in rush EPA. So they're a good running team. Kyron Williams is a tackle breaker at running back. Their offensive line is having a better season run blocking than they are pass blocking. And so you're not going to get a huge respite. You're not going to get a huge respite in this game if in terms of run defense. And you can see on this here, it's a huge advantage. You got the Seahawks at 21st in rush DVOA. You got the Rams at 10. All right. And as far as names of guys to know, I mean, you're not going to necessarily know, like Bo Limmer is their center. He's a rookie. He is a 46 graded pass blocker and a 64 graded run blocker. Alaric Jackson, most of you probably have not heard of. He's been their left tackle for a couple years. He is a 65 graded run blocker. They have a guy, Justin Dedich, who has started at guard for 3 games. He is a 41 graded pass blocker. He is a 68 graded run blocker. And so this is a team that is going to try to overpower you. They've got big offensive linemen. They've got a coach in Sean McVay that knows when and how to call those run plays. And they bring that strength into this game. Quite honestly, they could be one of the worst run teams in the NFL, and going against the Seahawks run defense, they might do okay. So that's not just being gallows humor. It's just, unfortunately, the way things have gone. Hasn't been hard to get yards against this team. So that's the big highlight or low light there. But it's also worth just noting, there's a lot of green on this chart. If you look at the Seahawks pass defense, it's more highly rated than the Rams pass offense. If you look at the Rams defense, it is 28th in the NFL in DVOA. It is 27th against the run. It is 27th against the pass. So they are also a really flawed run defense. In fact, believe it or not, they have a worse run defense than the Seahawks from a DVOA perspective. The Seahawks are 21st in DVOA against the run. The Rams are 27th. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. They're 27th against the pass. And I actually want to take a look on this real quick because, I don't know, have the Seahawks faced a pass defense ranked that badly this year? Let's take a look. I'm going to do that right now. the Rams are 27th. The Seahawks have played the 30th ranked New England Patriots. That went pretty well from a passing perspective, but they have not faced, this is the worst pass defense they have faced outside of the Patriots. The next worst that they faced was the Atlanta Falcons at 24th in pass defense. So they've done pretty well when they face these inferior pass defenses. And I'm hopeful DK Metcalf will be back this week. That could be a big factor in this game. Special teams. This is increasingly becoming an advantage for Seattle. This was something earlier in the year. Jay Harbaugh and his team was maybe one of the biggest problems on this Seahawks group. It's now probably the strength of the group, despite D. Williams fumbling another punt. Michael Dixon had a career day against the Bills. You never really want your punter to have a career day, but he did. He has jumped up in net yards per punt. He was 27th. He's now, I think, 12th or something like that. So they're making good progress. Coverage teams have been really good. The Rams have not. We'll talk about that a little bit more. But this is really the thing right here. If you walk away with one thing, it is right here. The Los Angeles Rams rank 32nd, dead last in the NFL in defending tight ends. They rank 32nd in the NFL, dead last in defending running backs as receivers. So this is a situation, and by the way, the Seahawks still are, well, actually, that's not the right thing. Anyways, the Seahawks have an opportunity again, just like they did against the Bills, to have Kenneth Walker be a big part of this game. And they're going to need him. They're absolutely going to need him. In this case, you've got a poor run defense and you've got a poor ability to defend the running back as a receiver. Should be a big part of this game. All right. So let's get into specifics on offense. When the Seahawks have the ball. So when the Seahawks have the ball, there's, again, a lot of advantages here. The Seahawks, the Rams are 22nd in points allowed. They are 21st in yards allowed. They're 26th in yards per play. They're 25th in EPA per play. This is all defense for the Rams. So this is a bottom 5 or 6 defense by most measures in the NFL. They are not bad at everything, but they are not good at really almost anything. One of the interesting things for the Rams, and I think this has to do with the fact that they've had their bye week, and so I wouldn't put a lot of, let me actually do a quick search. I'm going to look up explosive play rates. Explosive play rates. I think I can find it on Twitter. I think the reason I'm pausing here is that what it'll show you on tail of the tape is that okay, here we go. Is that the Rams are 9th in giving up explosive passes and 4th in giving up explosive rushes. But the way I do those numbers is just it's flawed, to be totally honest. It is based off of a total volume of those plays as opposed to a per game basis. And so when you start getting into bye weeks and certain teams play fewer or more games, you get teams kind of jumping up or jumping down. All right, so offensive. I don't want offensive play rates. Where's defensive? Okay, so let's see where the Rams rank on defensive play rates. The Rams, where are you? Rams. Okay, so it is actually close to true. They are 7th in the NFL in defensive explosive plays from a rate perspective. They are 5th in rushing, and they are 13th in passing. So my numbers are actually not too far off. Over the last 4 weeks, the Rams are number 1 in rushing explosive plays. They've given up 0. They are 3rd in overall explosive plays given up. So this is the thing I would say the Rams have been best at this year, which is limiting explosive plays, even though they're hemorrhaging yards. So it's very odd to have a team that is 19th in yards per rush, 26th in yards per play, but they're top 5 in explosive rushes. Like, that's a little bit odd from a profile perspective. They've given up the 26th worst or best, depending on how you want to think about it. They're ranked 26th in opposing quarterbacks passer rating. They rank 27th in EPA per dropback. They rank, despite the fact that you will hear from me and others, they have a decent pass rush. They rank 19th in sack rate. So this is a team that defensively has a lot of flaws. I really like the youth on their team, but there are absolutely plays to be made. Even against the Vikings, they took their first 2 drives, 70 yards, touchdown, like knife through butter. And even without their left tackle, they took the Rams, I think 50, 60 yards on a couple drives in the second half. They only got field goals in those, unfortunately, for the Vikings. This is not a shutdown defense by any stretch. And their best player, I think, is their rookie, Jared Verse, who is an 82.8 graded pass rusher as an edge player. He's an 82.8 graded player. He is an edge rusher. He has a 77.8 pass rush grades. He leads the Rams with 32 pressures. They also have Kobe Turner, who was last year's rookie sensation for them. I think had like 8 sacks or whatever it was on the inside. He has 23 pressures this year. He is not playing as well without Aaron Donald next to him, but he's going to have to like his chances against the interior of the Seahawks offensive line. Bobby Brown is a guy that most people do not know, other than people that grew up when I grew up and know him from the 80s, but this is a different Bobby Brown. He is like a 330-pound nose tackle. He's like what the Seahawks wish they had, a young run-stuffing nose tackle. He's very solid in the middle of the line. And then you've got Braden Fisk, who I was never high on pre-draft. He does have a lot of pressures this year. He has 21 pressures, which is good for an interior player for sure. But he's a 57 graded player, 52 against the run, 28 graded tackler, misses a lot of tackles. I think he's going to always be a effective, but not that dominant. I don't think he'll ever be a dominant player. I think even if he does become pretty good in one regard, I think he will always struggle against the run. So that's kind of like, they've got some guys up front that are interesting. They just made a move at corner. So they had signed these two vets, Tre'Davious White from Buffalo and Darius Williams, who used to be a Ram. Tre'Davious White was a bust. They have given him permission to seek a trade. They've benched him. They've put Kobe Durant now as their new corner opposite of Darius Williams. And that's helped from the pass perspective. They've done a little bit better. Now, I think their numbers are aided quite a bit by the fact that they played Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell, and I think they picked him off like 4 times or whatever it was. So that game made all their pass numbers and their coverage grades better. But in general, it's not a great coverage unit. Their linebackers, they traded away Ernest Jones. They've been trying to make do at the linebacker spot with guys like Christian Rosaboom. And then they might have lucked into something, unfortunately. Omar Spates played his first game of the season. He is an undrafted rookie free agent this year from LSU. He played his first game against Minnesota. He had a 67.7 grade, 75 grade against the run, 78 grade as a tackler. So he did not do great in coverage, but I think that they've got to be enthusiastic that they might have found an improvement at the linebacker spot. Roseboom is still not great, and an issue for them. He is a 44.2 graded player, 47.5 in coverage, 49.8 against the run. So they've got some real weaknesses there. Safety wise, I think it's an okay group. It's John Johnson was really I think he's a very good safety. He's out. They've got, I failed to mention Michael Hoyt. Michael Hoyt's another name who can kind of play outside or in. I think he's an interesting player, and, could be deployed certainly against the Seahawks in all sorts of ways. Quentin Lake and Cam Curl are their safeties. Cam Curl was a guy that a lot of people wanted to come to Seattle. He ended up signing with the Rams for not a lot of money after playing for the Commanders. He's not been great this year, but he has a 47 grade in coverage, and then Quentin Lake has a 56 grade in coverage. So if you're seeing like a pattern here, if I take all the Rams with the most coverage snaps this season, you want to guess what their highest coverage grade is? Like, for anyone that's had more than 50 coverage snaps on the year, their highest grade is Akella Weatherspoon, who had a 68 grade. And, he played 9 snaps last week, but he played less. Darius Williams has a 64 grade. Kobe Durant has a 63 grade. Everybody else is under 60, and most of them are under 50. So it's really it's a pretty sad bunch from a coverage perspective. And they really have nobody that should be able to cover DK Metcalf. They should have nobody that's been able to cover JSN. And that doesn't even include getting into AJ Barner, who, by the way, quietly had a good game. No one wants to talk about good games when you get your ass kicked at home, but he did. He did. I think AJ Barner had maybe his highest graded game against the Bills. No, it was his second highest graded game. He had an 85.5 grade, 80.9 passing, 69.8 pass blocking, 65.3 run blocking. This guy's earning more snaps. So he had 19 snaps. He could be a big part of this game for the Seahawks. So that's kind of where they stand from a defensive perspective. A lot of opportunity for the Seahawks. And you may have missed this as well. Believe it or not, the Seahawks had their best game in terms of allowing pressure of the year. They only allowed 28% pressure rate against the Bills. I know that's hard to believe, but it's true. And if you're curious, because I'm curious, where did that rank just for that week? For 1 week. We never get to have anything positive to say about the Seahawks offensive line. And who knows, maybe we never will. But for this 1 week, let's pick week 8. Where did the Seahawks rank in terms of pressure rates allowed? They were, folks, no. That's single game passers. Let's look at the offense. Let's look at single game leaders. Let's look at week 8. Okay, I want to make sure I get this right. This is going to be glorious. Just wait for it. Okay, the Seahawks ranked 16th 16th in the NFL in pressure rate allowed. How about that? How about that? None of this 28th, 29th, 30th. They were 16th. All right. By the way, the Rams were number one. They allowed an 11.8% pressure rate. The Seahawks allowed a 28% pressure rate. But let's not talk about the Rams. Let's just enjoy the fact that the Seahawks had their best pressure rate game of the year. All right. So Seahawks have advantages on offense. They really do. Ryan Grubb's got to figure out a way to take advantage of those advantages, but they've got opportunity. What's next? Well, let's look at the Seahawks when the Rams have the ball. When the Seahawks are on defense, how do things match up? Generally, if you guys have been watching this show week in, week out, you'll notice that this is actually relatively even. There's not a ton of red. And every other week, it's a lot of red because they've been facing some very good offenses. This week, it's a little more even. That's really misleading because the Rams were a much different team offensively when they had Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp back last week than they've been the rest of the year. Matt Stafford was a different player last week than he's been the rest of the year. So I think it's not wise to spend a lot of time, focusing on full season numbers. To give you an idea, let's just look at Stafford for a second. Stafford went into that game having not had a single game where he had a grade over 71. All right. His best game was against San Francisco. He had a 70.3 grade. He hadn't had a single game with a passing grade over 70. Against the Vikings, 82.9 overall, 81.5 passing. That's who he is. I just don't believe that he's just lost it. I tuned into that game so curious after seeing that his numbers were so bad. He threw for more touchdowns in that game against the Vikings than he had thrown all season. So he had been really struggling. He's not anymore. They do, from a running perspective, it is just worth taking a look, how have they done as a rushing team each week? Well, the Rams' rushing offense has been improving. It's not fantastic, but it's been improving. They had 83 yards the first week, then 53 yards, then 98 yards. Then they finally got over 100 against the Bears. They went 119 in that game, and then 134 against the Packers, and then 115 against the Raiders and 107 against the Vikings. So who knows? Maybe they peaked against the Packers and they're coming back down, but they've had over 107 yards rushing in 4 straight games after not having 100 yards rushing in their first 3. They're running the ball more confidently and more effectively. I think they're feeling good about their offensive line. And even though it's got a bunch of no names in there, you don't hear as much whining and moaning about their offensive line as we do as Seahawks fans, because they're managing to do some things properly. Now, it's just one game because look, the Rams had not scored more than 20 points in any game other than once. And that was against the 49ers. They scored 27. And then they scored 30 against the Vikings. Well, technically, I think they scored 28. That safety was not a safety. But in any event, they've not put up a lot of points. They have struggled. I do think most of that is receiver related and offensive line related. And I think they're on a better track. But this is not as dominant as the Bills or even the Falcons offense had been when the Seahawks faced them. Even with Puka Nacua coming back and Cooper Kupp coming back. So the biggest thing you'll notice, we've talked about this already, their biggest advantage is in rushing. Their rush EPA is 12th. The Seahawks are 28th in defending the run. Now, their rush yards is 26th, which is not great. Their yards per rush is 30th, which is also not great. So kind of confusing a little bit there, but they've been effective running the ball when they want to be. So they're probably a high success rate team. And then, whoops, when we look at their passing attack, they do have a high completion rate. They're 9th in the NFL in completion rate. And the other thing to notice is that they have given up a lot of pressure. They've given up 17. They're 17th in the NFL in sack rate. Matt Stafford is not a mobile guy. He's not super hard to bring down. He is tough, but there's a chance the Seahawks will be able to get after the passer, assuming that they can stop the run. They've not been particularly explosive. They are 15th in the NFL in explosive passes, 26th in explosive rushes. So there's a couple places there where the Seahawks have some advantage. Now, if we look at special teams, they're not great in the kicking game. They rank 22nd in the NFL in field goal percentage made. They've not made, I don't think, a 50-yard field goal yet this year. The Seahawks, as I mentioned, have become a very good coverage team. They rank 12th in the NFL in net yards per punt, 7th in covering kicks. So they're becoming a really good special teams from a coverage perspective. The Rams have been decent in returning punts, so it'll be a good challenge for the punt team. Hopefully they don't have to be out there very often, but if they do, there'll be a challenge there. And the Rams, they're like mediocre in kicking. They're 16th in net yards per punt. They're 17th in covering kicks. The Seahawks are 27th in punt returning and 4th in kickoff returning, thanks largely due to that kickoff return from Laviska Shenault against the 49ers. So what does all this mean? I think what it generally means for the Seahawks is nothing matters unless you stop the run. That's what it means. I mean, it's you could have done, what are we are at 47 minutes. I could have done this probably in 60 seconds. If the Seahawks stop the run, they can win this game. If the Seahawks don't stop the run, they're going to lose this game. It's probably that simple. Is there a game script where the Seahawks don't stop the run, but Geno Smith and the offense puts up 40 points and they win anyway, 40-37? Sure. Like, yeah, that game script exists. I wouldn't bet on it. And I certainly am not hoping for it. Like, for the soul of this team and this fan base, this Seahawks team needs to show a spine against the run, or almost none of it matters. So that's really what this comes down to. Kyren Williams, Sean McVay, they're going to look to run the ball. You've got Puka Nacua, who is very tough after the catch. He's a physical receiver. It's going to be a big challenge for the Seahawks to not only deny him the ball, but to bring him down after he catches it. Devin Witherspoon has been not very good when it comes to tackling. Reek Woolen had a tough game against the Bills. They're going to have to cover. They're going to have to cover well. The safeties are going to have to make tackles. Hopefully Ernest Jones plays with a fury against his former team and is able to make a couple key plays to turn the tides. That would be great. I'm not scared of the Rams the way I think a lot of Seahawks fans are scared of the Rams and Sean McVay and all that. I still think the Seahawks are a more talented team. I do. I believe that. They sure as heck haven't been playing like it. You know that thing people talk about where it's like, you know, you play, are you five fingers or are you a fist? I mean, the Seahawks have been playing like five fingers. Like they're less than the sum of their parts. And until that changes, they're going to lose. They're going to lose a lot of games. So I don't think this is hopeless. That is not at all what I'm saying. I do think that the Seahawks have to be a different team than they've been in order for that to happen. I think it's also worth noting that the Seahawks were able to take advantage of getting out in front and being ahead against the Falcons. I think it allowed them to play some different things defensively. if the Seahawks get the ball first on offense, they got to put points on the board. So I don't think you have to worry about some massive home field invasion by Rams fans. There's just not that many Rams fans to begin with, and the ones that exist are not that passionate. I'm sure there are some very passionate Rams fans, but there's not a lot of them relative to other fan bases. So this isn't going to be like those other games. It's not going to be on prime time. It's not going to be in front of the lights and a lot of the attention and the number one game of the week or anything like that. It's just going to be a football game on a Sunday against a division rival. And Mike McDonald's got to get these guys ready to play. All right, folks, if you haven't already gone to ftnfantasy.com and signed up there, use promo code HBAM. It gets you 15% off. It's less than $8 a month. You can get all the data that I'm getting and a bunch of other insights that they've got there. Be aware, it didn't rain like as much as I thought it might on Sunday. It did rain a bit, but the forecast right now is clear. Who knows what it's going to be like? It's supposed to rain every other day in and around Sunday. Weather could be a factor. That's something to pay attention to. I did an article on the effect of rain on Geno Smith and on Josh Allen, and I was only able to do that because I have access to FTN. It's the only place I was able to find the splits I needed. So you can get that too. HBAM is your promo code. Don't forget. And then JK Boots. I talked about this earlier. If you haven't used that promo code, still time to get not only 10% off your purchase, your entire order. So you can buy boots, belts, like other stuff there as well. But you have to buy a boot for it to count to be eligible to be someone who could win the Seahawks themed boot, custom, one of a kind. Also, when we get to our next 10 sales, using code HawkBlogger, we're going to give away another pair of boots to a wildland firefighter to help protect the Northwest Forest. So not too late to do it. Take advantage of it. You'll be happy. Whoever you buy them for will be happy. And the Northwest Forest will be happy. So take advantage of it. Give the show a like and click subscribe if you haven't. I'm going to wrap up shop here. And we are then going to pop back up for the next hour of Hawk Blogger Mornings. Big Ray's Rewind comes up to you at 9 a.m. Pacific time. Till I see you there, I am Brian Nemhauser. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Hawk Blogger. This has been hour 1 of episode 220 of Hawk Blogger Mornings. Take care, y'all.